Tron Lightcycle Run is the new for 2023 roller coaster at Magic Kingdom. This motorbike coaster was a long time coming. The ride originally opened at Shanghai Disneyland in 2016, and it was announced for Florida back in 2017, but it took years to finally open. Now that it's open, is it the best coaster at Magic Kingdom? Find out in this review. Shanghai Disneyland opened in 2016, and it's the only castle park to date without a Space Mountain. But this park still had a major indoor thrill coaster in Tomorrowland. Instead, it would be Tron Lightcycle Power Run. This would be a Vekoma motorbike coaster themed to the Tron movie franchise. If you are unfamiliar with these films, the premise is that humans are digitized into a computer world of gladiatorial games. So this translated well to a visually stunning roller coaster. Tron was very well received. So much so that Disney announced in 2017 that they would bring a clone to Walt Disney World for the resort's 50th anniversary in fall of 2021. However, the ride opened much later than that. The COVID-19 pandemic postponed this ride's construction by 1.5 years, which is why it didn't open until the spring of 2023. Tron was placed at the edge of Tomorrowland next to Space Mountain, and for someone who has been going to Magic Kingdom for 2+ decades, it is quite jarring to see another large structure pop up in Tomorrowland, but the ride looks fantastic. Tron has its own dedicated plaza, accessible by a single ramp. Most of the ride takes place entirely indoors, but the first turn takes place underneath this giant canopy. This white wavy structure has a distinctly futuristic vibe, fitting in perfectly with Tomorrowland. It looks solid by day, but it looks incredible at night as it's illuminated by thousands of twinkling lights. They're mostly blue, but every so often they'll switch to orange. And they form a pattern whenever a train whizzes by. And the trains themselves also have glowing blue tires, which further adds to the aesthetic appeal. The combination of the trains constantly cycling and lights make this attraction a spectacle to see. You'll see dozens of onlookers in the ride plaza simply watching in awe. The main show building is pretty bare though, but Disney smartly put the focal point in the canopy. This is what draws your attention, and it also blocks the main building from most angles in the park. It's also worth noting this canopy counts as a covering, meaning the ride can continue to operate even in thunderstorms. Now you can't just get in line for Tron though. This ride uses a virtual queue. Ever since Rise of the Resistance, Disney has been using the system for their newest attractions in the USA. It is intended to prevent the latest and greatest ride from having multi-hour waits. However, this turns the ride into a game of fastest finger. I'm not a fan of the system. It restricts how many times you can experience the attraction, and it potentially locks out guests if they have technological issues or lose track of time. Now I get why Disney does it to minimize how many people are stuck in one line at a time, but it can lead to a lot of stress. Imagine paying thousands of dollars for a Walt Disney World vacation, only to miss Tron because your cell phone freezes or glitches. I imagine this has to have happened to multiple people. This system will likely be discontinued sometime in the future, I'm guessing in about a year, but in case you're riding Tron anytime soon, here is an overview of the virtual queue system. These rules are accurate as of December 2023. Disney has changed the rules of the virtual queue before, and I know they'll be changed again later. Feel free to skip to the time shown on screen if you want to bypass this part of the video. There are 3 times of day when the boarding groups are released: 7 AM, 1 PM, and 6 PM. The 7 AM and 1 PM releases are available daily. Any day guest can get them. Each day guest can get 1 virtual queue per day. To be eligible for the 7 AM drop, you must have a valid reservation for Magic Kingdom. And a note on this, Disney is eliminating the park reservation system in just a few weeks, so I believe this will allow anyone with a valid Magic Kingdom ticket or pass to try and book Tron. Then you use the My Disney Experience app to secure your spot in the virtual queue. This is before Magic Kingdom opens, so it can be done from anywhere. It can be done at your hotel room or even in another state. It just matters that you reserve Magic Kingdom for the day. The 1 PM drop requires you to be physically inside Magic Kingdom. This is why you'll see a bunch of people staring at their phones like zombies around this time. If you try to use the 1 PM boarding group, try to be cognizant where you'll be. You don't want to be stuck on a ride or in a queue line with no cell service. The 6 p.m. drop is a special one. It's not available every single day. This occurs when resort guests have extended evening hours or there are special parties. You are allowed to get an additional return time for this event, even if you already got one earlier in the day. When you enter the My Disney Experience app, there's a section called Virtual Queues. You can then click Join Virtual Queues. Go to the one for Tron. 1 hour before the release times, you can go in to confirm your party, but realistically, you can do this a few minutes before the virtual queue opens up. You want to make sure that everyone you're visiting the park with is part of this group. Those who are will get a boarding group when the time comes. If it's incorrect, you can use the edit option. I recommend setting 2 alarms. Set one alarm that's 1 or 2 minutes before the release time. This is your signal to enter the Disney Experience app. Go to the Tron virtual queue page. Hit Confirm Party once again. At the bottom, you will see a button that says Refresh. Your second alarm should be for the release time. The instant your alarm sounds and your phone says 7, 1, or 6, start spamming the refresh button. It should turn into Join Virtual Queue. Once you click that, the next screen will say Done. Click that and you'll get a boarding group. This screen will tell you your boarding group number and an estimate how long until you're called back. The Refresh, Join Virtual Queue, and Done buttons are all in the same location, so I recommend just spamming these without reading what they say. Reading them will waste precious seconds. That's important because the boarding groups for the 7 a.m. release can disappear in seconds, but using my method, you can get an early return time. I've gotten Group 1 a few times. The benefit with an early boarding group is that you can essentially walk onto the attraction. I've seen the virtual queue take an hour later in the day. If you get one of the early boarding groups, know that it may be called 15 minutes before the park officially opens, meaning you're going to have to be there early. Times tend to stick around a bit later after the 1 p.m. release, but you still want to grab one as quickly as possible just to be safe, especially if you are visiting on a busy day. I know some people have been deliberately trying to get a late boarding group to secure an evening ride, but that's risky if all times run out. Night rides are a bit better, but it's not so special that you should risk missing the ride entirely. Once your time is called, you officially have just an hour to return. If you return during your assigned window, your Magic Band or park ticket will scan green at the ride's entrance. I've heard Tron is unofficially giving an hour leeway, but know the cast members technically can deny you at this point. Compare that to Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind at Epcot, where cast members will admit anyone with a boarding group, even if it was called hours ago. I think they're being extra strict with Tron because so many people are trying to get a night ride, whereas Guardians is entirely indoors, so the time you ride doesn't really make a difference. If you want to ride at night, the smartest way to do so is to grab an individual lightning lane. This is separate from Genie Plus, and it will cost roughly $20 per person. You can book a specific 1-hour window to experience Tron. Each guest is allowed to purchase 2 individual lightning lanes in total per day across the entire resort. There are 3 benefits to buying a lightning lane for Tron. 1. This is one method that allows you to ride Tron twice per day. You are allowed to get both a virtual queue and a lightning lane for this ride. 2. You reserve a specific time. This is especially helpful if you want to park hop to Magic Kingdom later in the day when the boarding groups will likely be depleted. Or this helps if you have a dining reservation you don't want to muck up. Whereas with the virtual queue, you are at the mercy of the boarding group. 3. You board much faster. The merge point for lightning lanes is at the locker banks, so there's maybe just 10 minutes of queue line left. Lightning lanes haven't depleted too quickly for Tron thus far because of the virtual queue option, but I suspect these will become as popular as the ones for Rise of the Resistance lightning lanes once the virtual queue is discontinued. Disney hotel guests can book individual lightning lanes as early as 7 a.m. Other guests need to wait until the park officially opens. On some days, the lightning lanes for Rise of the Resistance are swallowed up entirely by hotel guests before the park officially opens. When will the virtual queue be eliminated? The virtual queue was originally introduced in Rise of the Resistance partially because of its immense popularity, but more so because of its extreme unreliability. Both Tron and Guardians have proven to be very reliable attractions, yet Guardians still has a virtual queue nearly 1.5 years after it opened. I'm guessing this is due to demand at this point, and I could see the same happening with Tron. When this attraction opens its standby line, I suspect it will frequently have the longest line at Magic Kingdom. I would expect 1.5 to 2 hour waits most days. It is a function of this ride's newness and popularity. If you have early entry, this will be the best time to ride Tron with a short wait. Just know you'll likely want to arrive at least a half hour before early entry even starts to make sure you're at the front of the rope drop crowd. Currently, all Disney World hotel guests are admitted into Magic Kingdom a half hour early. Lightning lanes account for 60 to 70% of a ride's capacity, and they do not start until the official operating hours, so the standby queue can move 2 to 3 times faster during early entry. If you don't have early entry, I suspect this queue will already be backed up by the time official opening hits. Therefore, I believe you'll want to enter the queue line closer to closing. As long as you're in line by the official closing time, you'll be allowed to ride. There are 2 benefits to this. 1, you can get a night ride. 2, the queue will move quickly. There will be no more lightning lanes as with early entry, and Disney routinely comically overinflates wait times near closing to deter people from entering lines. But do not believe what the wait time boards will say. I have entered a line for Avatar Flight of Passage at closing that said 180 minutes, and I was on the ride in 45 minutes. When you go to ride Tron, you enter through this long overflow queue line running alongside the building. This is a very temporary feel to it with chain link fencing, but it is mostly shaded at least by a series of umbrellas. Then you officially enter the main queue. This starts with a series of switchbacks. They're completely covered, but there isn't too much to see. You just have a few graphics hanging from the ceiling, plus a large laser. You are then admitted indoors for a brief pre-show. You stand in front of a glass screen. A robotic voice tells you to prepare to be digitized into the world of Tron. Lights start to flash, and they reveal the ride's launch track on the other side. It is a real wow moment. The launch area has glowing blue lights, and the pre-show is usually timed perfectly with a vehicle launching. If the queue line is empty, the door may be open allowing you to bypass this scene, but if you want to see it, just hang around for 2 to 3 minutes and it should go off. This leads to another set of switchbacks. This is a futuristic vibe with the blue lights and circuit-like patterns. The walls have some pictures of light cycles and gladiators. Then there are video screens informing you about the boarding process via a woman with a robotic voice. This section leads to a bank of double-sided lockers. This is the first Disney coaster that does not allow loose articles. Disney usually has guests ride with bags at their feet, but there isn't room to do so on a motorbike-style train. So all your bags must go in these lockers. They're completely free, and they're quite sizable too. You simply tap your magic band to open one. If you don't have a magic band, an employee will give you a locker ticket. You also cannot ride with anything in your hands because it's the only Disney coaster to pass directly over a pathway. Disney usually has a very lax filming policy, but the only cameras allowed on this ride are GoPros secured by a chest mount specifically. If you want to keep small pocket-sized articles with you during the last part of the queue, there is a special pouch on the train to stow these away. Just don't take them out or else you'll ruin the ride for everyone else. On our first ride, the launch timing was disrupted by someone who took out a cell phone, so we couldn't launch until it was put away. The final part of the queue is a set of ramps taking you down to the double-sided load platform. There, you will be divided into 2 lanes, one for even-numbered parties and one for odd-numbered parties. The trains sit people 2 across, so the odd-numbered lane allows Disney to pair the extra riders in each party together to fill each seat without the need for a single rider line. Cast members assign rows, but they're happy to honor seating requests if you ask nicely. I think the front row offers the best ride experience. You get the added sense of speed up there. However, there is a large advantage to riding in back. Since the show scenes trigger when the front of the train reaches them, you get a few extra seconds to take them in if you're in the rear row, so it comes down to personal preference if you want the added sense of speed or slightly longer visuals. Now this ride is a capacity monster. The ride has 7 trains, and I believe it can run 6 at once, and each train holds up to 14 riders. Tron has a reported capacity of nearly 1,700 riders per hour. That's impressive for any coaster, especially a motorbike coaster, which has a more complex loading process. But Disney does several things to keep the line moving. 1. You have the aforementioned dual load platform, meaning 2 sets of guests can board at once. 2. There's a separate unload platform like most Disney coasters, so trains arrive at the load platform empty and ready to accept the next guests. 3. Disney has arrows on the ground directing guests where to specifically walk to board the motorbike. 4. The crew checks the restraints very quickly. The trains are a bit different than the motorbike coasters from Zamperla or Intamin. On Tron, you mount the bike and bend your legs. Your knees press into these swivel pads. Then you pull the handlebars towards you. This pushes the back and leg restraints towards you. The back restraint is for comfort. This part actually has a shocking amount of give even when it's locked, so you can actually sit up straight if you so desire. The main restraining part is the metal bar that swings outwards. It positions itself between your calf and thigh. It needs to swivel a full 90 degrees or you cannot ride. This makes it arguably the most unaccommodating Disney coaster out there. Anyone with large calves may struggle to fit. There are 2 mitigations in place. 1. You can try the test seat. This actually is located past the extended queue before the main queue starts. This will allow you to test if you fit and try different positions to try to fit. 2. The back row in several trains features a traditional bucket seat and regular U-shaped lap bar. This was originally intended for handicapped guests, but it is also more accommodating for larger guests or those who would find the bent position on the motorbike uncomfortable. If you need or want this seat, let a cast member know at the end of the line and they'll put you in a short but separate queue for it. But I always ride in the motorbike cars because that's the more unique riding position that offers a superior sense of speed and immersion. Once checked, you roll out of the station, and you immediately discover this ride's onboard audio. It is a brilliant, high-octane soundtrack from Daft Punk. It is one of the best scores of any ride in my opinion. The music intensifies, and you roll towards the launch track that you saw from the queue line. Lights start to pulse. You pause briefly, and almost immediately, a countdown begins. On 1, you take off, and this launch is great. It is the best of a coaster at a Disney park. For 1, it has some power. This is a linear induction motor or LIM launch. It accelerates riders to 59 miles per hour or 95 kilometers per hour. The initial kick is admittedly pretty meh, but there's a good pull midway down the launch. It catches you by surprise. The speed feels incredible in that front row. 2, the launch is very theatric. You have those aforementioned lights. Then you take off down a tight hallway which accentuates the speed. Then you have some auditory effects from the music and revving sounds. You then head outdoors for the giant turnaround above the entry plaza. It maintains the speed of the launch, and the visuals are fantastic as you brush right up against the canopy. The turn itself doesn't have much force to it, but the subsequent valley does offer some decent Gs. You then rise upwards into the show building, getting some faint float in the front row. Now I've heard Tron is significantly better at night. Is it better at night? Yes, the glowing blue lights during the turn are cool to see. But is it significantly better at night? To me, no. You're only outdoors for all of 7 seconds, and I think the canopy's proximity makes this part interesting even by day. The one thing a night ride does is that it makes the ride feel more cohesive. It feels like you never leave the grid when you're traveling around the illuminated turn. Whereas by day, it visibly looks and feels much different than the rest of the ride. The indoor portion features the gladiatorial game. The goal is to race your opponents through 8 different energy gates or checkpoints. It's a darkened room, but there are some illuminated features. You have the multicolored energy gates, plus some glowing directional arrows and hexes. Tron Start is all about speed, but once inside, you hit a mid-course brake run. This is one of 3, and each one will slow the train down a noticeable amount, which does disrupt the pacing. That first mid-course is a plain hallway. You then have a swooping drop left, revealing the main room. It's another wow moment, and if you're in the back rows, you'll get some weak floater airtime here. Then you have an upwards turn right. It's light on the forces, but the speed is solid given the environment. The snap into the mid-course gives a little lift, but it will slow you down like the first one. You then have a turn against some opposing light cycles, and this is a very clever effect. The train's wheels, which are blue for every other part of the ride, briefly turn orange. So when you turn against a mirror, it appears to be a completely different train, but in actuality, it's your train. Then you twist upwards, again hitting another mid-course brake run that will slow you down once again. But the entry again can give a slight pop of airtime at least. The music then intensifies for the finale. You twist left and run against a giant screen with an opposing racer. It starts on your right, then the racer dips down off screen and appears on a second screen off to your left. It is a nice crossover effect. Then you box that racer out and they appear to disintegrate, so you may have just killed someone. You then cruise into the final brake run. The music switches to a triumphant tone and you are congratulated for your efforts. You then go to the unload platform, ending the experience. The most common complaint I've heard about Tron is that it does feel short. I knew that going in, but I still felt it was a bit short. But it actually is a good amount of track. Tron features 3,169 feet, or 966 meters of track. That track length is comparable to Rock and Roller Coaster, but Tron is actually 20% shorter than Rock and Roller Coaster, as it features just under 1 minute of prime ride time. That's actually a solid duration for most coasters, but it is noticeably shorter than other Disney coasters because you travel through the layout so quickly. On that note, Tron has solid pacing. The mid-course brake runs do disrupt the flow. The ones on Guardians are not as disruptive because they're disguised by show scenes and the fact you don't slow down. Meanwhile on Tron, you are very clearly on a brake run, and you noticeably decelerate. Then, like most of the new Vekoma coasters, this ride is immaculately smooth. The transitions are fluid, and there is not a hint of a rattle. This review was focused on the Magic Kingdom version, but I've heard the Shanghai version offers a nearly identical experience, so I imagine I would like that coaster comparably. So what would I rate Tron? I would give this coaster an 8 out of 10. The best way I'd describe this coaster is pure fun. It's all about the speed and visuals, and it does those two things exceedingly well. These make the experience for me, especially because you're in that prone motorbike position. Twisting and turning in that position and environment is bliss. But there are some cons to the coaster. 1, it feels a bit short. 2, the mid-course brake runs do hurt the pacing somewhat. And 3, it's not too heavy on the forces beyond that initial launch. So depending what you prioritize in a coaster, this ride could either rank much higher or lower for you. I think the other thing that hurt Tron's reception is the unveiling of Epcot's Guardians last year. That is a significantly better coaster in terms of forces, visuals, and duration. That is the best coaster at Walt Disney World in my opinion. I would also take Space Mountain over Tron, but Tron is probably my third favorite coaster at the resort, narrowly edging out Expedition Everest. And it was certainly a very nice addition to Magic Kingdom. So those are my thoughts on Tron Lightcycle Run at Walt Disney World. What are your thoughts on this coaster? Is it your favorite coaster at Magic Kingdom? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I would appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you considered subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.